Hey there. Today I am joined with Jim Monahan, and today we're going to talk about the craft beer apprenticeship program. But first, Jim, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What did you want to be when you grew up? When you were just a kid, what did you want to be?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, I actually wanted to be a teacher. To be honest, yes. I actually went to school. Took 4 years of college. Actually, five because I transferred. I lost some credits. But yeah, I wanted to be a high school social studies teacher or math. That was my backup. But yeah. But it didn't
Now,
work out that way. So
you've done a lot. So, did you go to school for education, or what did you end up going to school for?
I did. I went to school for secondary education. I majored in history, minored in mathematics. But I come from a family of law enforcement, so that was my backup plan, and that's actually what happened.
And I saw just reading your bio that you've done a lot. You're a retired sergeant from the NYPD.
Yes,
You've led million-dollar companies, and
yes.
now you run the OBN Second Chance Initiative as a co-founder. What led you to where you are today?
Well, to be totally clear, I made a huge mistake, which cost 4.5 years of my life in federal prison, and then 3 years of probation, which I just recently got off earlier this year. And during that time, it gave me there was a lot of time for me to think. I was fortunate that I met like-minded people, and it's funny because you know to me, the way I look at it now, as opposed to then, is sometimes you have to take a step backwards to take two steps forwards, and that's how I view my life right now. I view what I'm doing now is awesome because I'm helping other people realize that they have an opportunity. There are second chances. That everyone makes mistakes, and that if you put in the work ethic and the time and the focus, that good things could happen.
I think there's so much we can learn from mistakes and failures. But when something unfortunate happens to us, sometimes often our immediate reaction is to be upset or angry at the world. When this happened to you, what were your emotions like, and at what point did they transfer to wanting to put some sort of positivity into the situation?
Absolutely. I'm not, again, right to the point. That's
Oh, good.
exactly what happened to me. I felt, my life was over. I felt there was nothing in my future. My world just collapsed. But thankfully, I had good family support. I had some good friend support. And then just meditation, just focusing on prayer. I am somewhat spiritual. So those things kind of got me through. And I realized that, what, life isn't over. There are things that I can do to not only better myself, but to help others have a similar situation.
And that led you to the Second Chance Initiative?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I met my partners in prison, and they were thinking something similar as I was, and we just got to talking conversation wise, and all of us come from somewhat of a business background, and we just started putting pen to paper, and long story short, we had like a think tank. Let's just say, there's two things you can do in prison. You can get in more trouble, or you could take that time and better yourself, and we chose to do the latter. So we, like I said, we had this think tank, and we put a robust business plan together, which included a small business incubator, a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and a bunch of LLCs that are its main mission is about helping people that have been incarcerated and getting them an opportunity to not only be employed, but to get an education that will lead them to a career. Because we view it differently. We don't, the prison system, when you leave, they say get a job. They don't care what kind of job it is. They just say get a job. So at OBN Second Chance Initiative, we don't view it that way. What we look to do is get these individuals a career. That includes an education, on the job training, mentorship, and then that will lead that individual hopefully to a full time employment opportunity in a career.
And one thing I really like on your website is OBN's mission, and it says provide those with a criminal past the opportunity to become successful entrepreneurs in order to achieve financial independence, so as to not to become another statistic, which is recidivism. Can you
Yes.
talk to us for a minute? What is recidivism?
Well, it's an alarming statistic. I believe the national average is around 64, 65%, which means that every person that goes to prison and leaves, say out of 10, every 10 people that leave prison, six of them are going back. and that's a national average. So obviously, some states are going to be a little higher, some states are going to be a little lower. But here in New York and California, where we're at, that's about the average in both states. And let me just add this to people that are just understanding what this is all about. To incarcerate someone in the state of California just for 1 year is around. They don't put the annual budgets out, but I have the latest one from 2020, and it was around $85,000. Here in New York is probably around 65 to 70. So that's an alarming figure if you really think about it. That six people come out of 10 that leave prison, they're going right back and the taxpayer is paying that. So it just should make you think what is really going on. And there's a lack of education, there's a lack of programs. There are some good people, there's some good organizations that do great work inside of prison. It's just that it's not enough. And the fact of that is the recidivism rate. These people are coming out, getting frustrated, or don't have the opportunities, and then they go, have to go back.
So your journey already is really fascinating. So when you were in prison, you met your co-founders, you had these ideas to make a difference. It almost sounds like a homebrewer story. You're just chatting with your friends about, we're going to open a brewery someday. When you're having these conversations about how you all can make a difference and fight recidivism, at what point did you realize that this is something that you all could actually do and start it as a nonprofit organization and make a greater difference in the conversation you were just having right then and there?
Well, I guess for us, we're all positive people. Myself and my two partners, we've been through a lot, and to get to that point where you start putting pen to paper and this think tank that I talked about before, you're not going to take no for an answer. You're going to run into some roadblocks. You're going to get a lot of no's, but you just got to forge through it. And so we knew that from the get-go. Some people get frustrated. Maybe they put 6 months or a year in, or maybe 2 years in, and they say, what, I just can't do it anymore. We don't think that way. So for us, we knew we were going to meet like-minded people once we got out that would help contribute, and lo and behold, we do. We've met a lot of organizations, a lot of individual people, both on the nonprofit side and on the for-profit with the craft beer company, for example. So, we knew that was going to happen, and so that's how we decided that's how we're going to start.
So what is the help that the OBN Second Chance Initiative provides? And we'll get into the beer-related portion shortly, but what's the initial offerings that you provide to help fight recidivism?
Well, that's a good question, because it's different in every state, and we're finding it out here in New York. So, for example, if you're a felon in the state of California, it's much easier to enter our program. If you're a felon here in the state of New York, it's a little bit harder, and I'll explain why. Here in New York, the SLA, which is the State Liquor Authority, puts restrictions on people that are felons or have been to prison. In essence, they don't want you working in an on-premise location. And then if you want to get that job in an on-premise location, you have to do A, B, and C. The state of California, they're more progressive. You don't have to go through those hoops. But that's not stopping us from this program. I mean, we've reached out to several organizations that do have access maybe to the SLA. We've also have access to the SLA to help us get through these barriers. So these other organizations, for example, that are in the criminal justice arena, they'll help us with funding. So, for example, if we have an employer, say a brewery that needs a canning operator or a warehouse manager, so they'll go through our program, they'll get the education, they'll get the on-the-job training, and then we'll have an organization to come in and provide additional funding to the employer. So that employer is not paying 100% of the salary during the 6 to 9 months of this program. They're coming in and helping out that employer, because they know that this is an individual that has been incarcerated, so they'll help out in that manner.
So there's a ton of fascinating industries out there that people could have the opportunity to go into after they get out of prison. But why craft beer? Why did that interest you, and why did that become your focus?
I've gotten that a lot, and every time I approach an organization, they say, "Wow, I've never heard of this before." And it's a very unique program. I believe we're the only craft beer apprenticeship program for this segment of the population. But it's to that point. We've all experienced COVID, but this is the one industry that really, every industry was affected. But when you really look at the numbers, they really wasn't as affected, you could call it for whatever reason, alcohol
I'll
related or what.
reach
But
out personally to agree or disagree on that one.
yeah, but it really was true. But in an overall macro level, wasn't really affected. On a micro level, obviously, I think every industry at some aspect has been affected. But on a macro level, it really wasn't. So we looked at that seriously because we wanted to get into the craft beer industry. But again, we have the nonprofit, and our sole mission of the nonprofit is to create educational and vocational programs for these for-profit startups. So if we're starting a craft beer company, we have to take a look at and see what type of program we could design. And this is what we came up with.
And one aspect of the Second Chance Initiative that I really love, and I love this because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm always thinking of new ideas. I love talking to other startups. But the Second Chance Initiative, you had a small business incubator. Tell
Yes.
me about that.
So the Small Business Incubator is designed kind of like what the nonprofit does for educational vocational programs. The Small Business Incubator is designed to help individuals like myself that have been to prison, that maybe have an entrepreneurial mindset, that have a business idea, but they just don't know how to go, get it started. Maybe they think that F on that chest, that felon, is going to restrict them from doing certain things. So what this Small Business Incubator is designed to do is help them, guide them through the process, network, which in any business model is a huge piece of that puzzle, and then just guide them on the way in terms of maybe getting access to financing or legal aspects or accounting aspects. It's just basically considered like a one-stop shop, I guess you could say, for that. But we started out with our own, so we have 3 organizations under that incubator. But we started with the craft beer first. That was the first one out the gate.
So tell me more about the businesses involved.
So we have the craft beer, which is called Prison Break Brewery. Obviously, it's a craft beer company owned and operated by myself and my 2 other business partners. Then we have Unit 2 Creations, which is focused on book publishing, and film production. So it helps people. One of the things that you will find in prison is people, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of time. So you find a lot of people read, people like to write. So this company was designed to help those individuals reach that goal if that was something they were interested in doing. And then the other company is called Prison Break Records. My other business partner is actual songwriter. So we have a great connection in a production company in Nashville. So we have 2 artists under the label. We've already put out 2 albums under that label. So again, going back to the nonprofit, it's designing educational vocational programs for each one of those organizations. So as a small business comes out of the incubator, the nonprofit steps in, creates an educational vocational program, and then hopefully get to that successful point in that business.
I feel like Prison Break Brewery may need a theme song. Do you all have a theme song?
We're working on it. The songwriter, my partner Jack, actually has a jingle. Yeah, he has a jingle, but we haven't really put it out yet. But he's one of those creative thinkers. It's got to be the best. So.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to hear it
Yeah.
once you put it out there. And one thing I also like about what you've done with Prison Break Brewery, you make it really approachable. You're open, you're honest about your mission, and you give % of your profits back to those who align with what you're all doing. Talk to me a little bit about, the companies that you donate to and get involved, through Prison Break Brewery.
Yes. So obviously, a percentage of every sale of Shanked, which is our first craft beer. It's a.
Tell me about it. What do you have in your hand right there?
This is it's called Shanked Blonde Ale. This is our first craft beer that is out of production. Like I said, we launched April 15th of this year here in New York City. So this is our first one. So a percentage of the sales of Shanked go to not only OBN Second Chance Initiative, but we have a great relationship with Prison Fellowship, one of the other organizations that provides us not only job readiness, education, and reentry services, but they also provide funding in California. They're called Second Chance programs. Here in New York, we got CEO Works, we got FedCap, and then as we grow, there's going to be more organizations that we're going to be looking to get. I know one of the mission statements that is on our website, for example, victims of crime, even families in law enforcement that have been killed in the line of duty, which is close to my heart personally, children and women that have been victimized due to crime. So it's just things like that we want to get more involved with. because again, it's one thing to talk the talk, but it's another thing to walk the talk, and we're doing it.
And you're putting the work in. I respect that. Now, to go back to the beer, it's called Shanked.
Yeah, it's called Shanked Breakout Blonde. I don't know if you can see me move back there, but that's our banner, Shanked Breakout Blonde. It's a blonde ale, 4.9% alcohol content. Very smooth, very crisp. Great for this. Well, here in New York right now, we're going through a heat wave, so it's perfect for this kind of weather. But it's all year round drink. But our consultant said, start something mainstream. An ale would be perfect, and that's what we did. None of my
Why the
partners and
name
I are.
Shanked?
What's
Why,
that?
why the name Shanked, Jim?
So if you've been to our website, you'll notice that all of we call it the lineup, and all of the names of our beers will be something that you would find in prison. And these are some of the names you'll find that could be considered negative aspects of prison. We don't do that on purpose. We're not here to encourage that. We're here to do that for a reason, and we're trying to take a negative. The definition or reasoning behind it is trying to take a negative and turn it into a positive force. And that force is just to make people realize that there are people out there like myself, my partners, the two apprentices that we put through in California, the one that we're getting ready to put through here in New York, and many, 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 many others. They can contribute to society. It's not just because you went to prison. Many people have that view. Wow, you're done. You're broken. You can't be fixed, and things like that. So, we do that for a reason, because it's a real aspect of the prison life. And Shanked, unfortunately, is a negative tool that's used in prison. But like I said, we're doing it for a reason. We're trying to take a negative and turn it into a positive.
No, I like that. So, how does Prison Break stay prison themed and mission focused without glorifying prison life?
It's us. It's the messaging, the branding, and why the nonprofit is so important to it. It's making people realize that we can contribute. That there are, if given a second chance, that many people, not all, but many people, can turn their lives around and provide and be a constructive person in society. And and that's our thinking.
Now, we talked a little bit about the high recidivism rates earlier. What are the challenges a returning citizen faces with a criminal background when they're reentering the workforce?
Very good question. I don't know if many people realize this, but the last time I checked on that statistic, I believe it was up to 40,000 legal barriers, meaning that there are 40,000 laws on the books in all different states that prohibit someone like myself, that's a felon, to get a job. And I just talked about one in New York State. If you're a felon, technically, if you own a bar or a brewery, you can't hire me. Now I have my violation, and what I went to prison for has nothing to do with alcohol. I was nonviolent, but you're restricting me from getting an opportunity to work somewhere just because it's alcohol related. I just find that little weird, And so there are many laws like that, and so that's the problem. It's you get some states that say, like California, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a felon, you can work on an on premise. States like this in New York, they won't allow you, and I'm sure there's other states, but that's part of the issue that we want to in our messaging, in our branding, we want to bring out to the open to the public is make them realize that there's a segment of the population that can contribute. It's just that they're restricted by law in certain aspects.
And the craft beer apprenticeship program is specifically training returning citizens to work in the craft beer industry.
Correct. So right now we have about 5 job opportunities that are certified by the Department of Labor, but we can add others. So, for example, if an employer or a brewery or someone in the IT industry in the craft beer area, let's just say they want someone hire someone from our program, but that job description isn't listed. Because we're a department registered apprenticeship program, we have to get it registered, but it's easier to get it registered. It's only about 2-week process to get that job description registered. And then once it's registered, that individual go through what's called a 4-week job readiness program. That's with another organization, and basically get that individual ready. Once they graduate that 4 week, they come to us. We get
What
them.
are some of the skills they gain in that job readiness program, and what's that experience like?
Well, it's basically preparing that individual so they, some basic skills that they don't teach you while in prison, because each individual that has gone to prison has various education levels. So what this organization does is they'll provide, just the basics, whether it be in Word or Excel, PowerPoint. They'll teach you how an interview goes. They'll teach you how to speak. They'll how to dress. They'll help you understand the basics of a computer. Some of these organizations will provide that for you, that the actual computer, the laptop, let's just say, and teach you how to work that. Just believe it or not, the basic skills. I mean, my business partner Greg, I'm 52, he's 65, and when he got out, most of his life was in and out of prison. So someone that's of that age group, the world has changed. So this organization, when they get you that job readiness program, for some things, to us, it might seem simplistic or basic, but to these individuals, it's like, oh my God, what is this? So it's just preparing them for that. And then we have, when they come to our program, we provide the education and the on-the-job training, and I think that they're both equally important. But the on-the-job training is in an actual brewery with actual experienced mentors.
So, what's the criteria for someone to become a part of the apprenticeship program?
Well, right now it's basic in terms of 21 years of age or older. We try not to bring someone in that has any type of substance abuse or alcohol abuse, just for the obvious reasons. But that's basically it. We talk with the employer in terms of what they're looking for, and basically it's just someone that's motivated, someone that's focused, someone that realizes the opportunity that they have in front of them, and is determined, to want it.
And in California, you partner with San Diego State University. Is that correct?
Yes. So on the educational side, San Diego State University, they have an excellent craft beer curriculum. We put through two people through who are still employed as of, still today, and then one of the organizations, great organization called Second Chance Programs. They provide the job readiness program I just talked about. They also provide the funding. They provide up to 50% to the employer through the 9-month program. And then the Brewers Association, they have an excellent mentorship program. So after that individual graduates, after the 9 months, the Brewers Association provides an additional 12 weeks of mentorship, which is immensely huge. And that individual gets to stay with those mentors, keep in contact and things like that. And that's a tremendous value.
I can't wait to follow the success stories from this.
Yes, yes. And we're looking forward to getting our first apprentice here in New York. We're in talks now with SUNY Schenectady, who has an equally excellent craft beer curriculum here in the state of New York, that's consistent with San Diego State University. And then we have several organizations, two of which I mentioned before, FedCap and CEO Works, who are going to do the job readiness here in the state, here in New York City, and get that individual prepared and ready for them to come to us. And then Great South Bay Brewery is one of the breweries that will provide the on-the-job training. But we have a list of breweries that are interested.
So I've got a couple of follow-ups for you on this. First off, how are you finding the breweries where those in your program can serve their apprenticeship? Are they reaching out to you? Are you reaching out to breweries that have a mission that would align with yours? What is that process like to find those that you're going to partner with?
It's kind of like an old school salesman. You just got to go out and just network and just introduce yourself, introduce the program. And some of it's, a couple of the breweries have heard of us, but most of them, it's kind of like hearing it for the first time. And then you have to explain what the actual program is and what it's all about and how they can benefit from it. Because there is some upsides for them, if they decide to participate in this program.
For example, what are those upsides?
They get a tax incentive if they hire an individual that is an actual felon. They're not paying 100% of the salary during the 9 months of the program. They're only paying up to 50%. The individual that they're getting is pretty much assured to be motivated, because they've been vetted, and they went through several a job readiness program before that. They're gonna come to work when they're supposed to be there, and put in their 40, 50 hours or whatever it is. And then it's just the education side of it, and then knowing that the mentorship on the back end is coming in, and so that individual more than likely realizes of the opportunity, which will help the employer, that they're going to have pretty much assure themselves that they're going to have a very good employee that's educated, motivated, and wants to be there.
Now, you've already talked about California, you've talked about New York. What are the plans to grow this?
Our goal is to try to get it in every state if possible. It's unfortunate there's a prison in every state, even internationally. But obviously we gotta crawl before we walk and walk before we run. But baby steps. But yeah, I mean that's our long term vision. It's just like I mentioned before. We kind of knew it, but not to the degree of what we need to do in terms of getting a felon here in New York into the program. They have to get those. So it's basically three things. One is called a certificate of relief of disabilities, or one is called a certificate of good behavior. And then lastly, if they're having trouble getting those certificates for whatever reason, um, a letter from their parole or probation officer allowing them to work in an on-premise location, and then we have to submit that to the SLA. So I'm sure there's other states that have similar laws. So it's just understanding that our team, once they dive in and say, okay, we're going to go to Florida, let's just say as an example, what are their laws in terms of on-premise hirings of a felon?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of work to go in behind the scenes to make this work in each state you want to operate.
Yeah, yeah.
So, looking at this, and it's not just the craft beer industry, but I'm really curious. How do you believe we can shift the perception on hiring felons?
It's just organized, and we're not the only one. There's many other organizations, some of which I mentioned, that do great work in this area. So it's just more of that, and just hopefully people being open minded to just hearing us out. And I have to say, when I work on the craft beer side, and I do a lot of tasting events, because I mentioned we launched here in New York City, so I do a lot of brand awareness, and I mentioned both. The beer, obviously, what it is, what it's about, what we're coming out next with, and then obviously I mentioned the craft beer apprenticeship program. And I have to be honest, a lot of people ask questions. It's almost like 50-50. They'll ask me more questions or just about the same amount of questions about the apprenticeship program as they do with the beer. And wow, this is a great program. Wow, you're doing good things. So I think it's just more of that. It's just more of us getting out, in front of people, podcasts like yours, for example, which is fantastic. Just people listening to what we're trying to do, and again, it just comes down to is giving someone an opportunity that they made a mistake, but why why put that F on their chest for the rest of their life and bar them from getting a job opportunity? It just doesn't really make any sense to us.
No, I agree. And it's all about just education and awareness and keeping things positive. You know, question for you. So you've had a lot of really neat experiences in your life. You've learned so much and you managed to stay positive. What are your tips for someone else, whether they're a returning citizen or simply a brewery owner, to stay positive when life gets tough? Do you have any like guiding lights that just keep you going, or any advice that you would recommend to others?
I guess just for me, I could just I guess for how you know I was helped in terms of like I said, I did have support, but when you're in prison, you don't really have that person to talk to because you just can't. You only get so many minutes per month, let's just say, and then maybe you only have access to so many phones, and there's hundreds of people there like that are doing the same thing possibly. Yeah, you have access to email somewhat. That's a whole nother thing. Um, but so you just got to find it within you. Whatever your go to is. For me, like I said, it was more reading, spiritual, meditation. A lot of quiet time, and just understanding that sometimes a negative is meant for a reason, and it's and again, this is just coming from me in my opinion, but it's meant for a reason because there's something greater. that you can achieve. And I truly believe that everyone has that. It's just finding what that is to get you to that next level. And for me, like I said, it was more of meditation, reading, praying at times, and that would be my advice. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own philosophy on certain things like that. But to me, there's somewhat a similarity in terms of just taking a step backwards, just relax, think, maybe sleep on it, and get up and approach it head on. Maybe the next day.
That's fantastic. And it also sounds like, you know, you had a lot of great like-minded individuals you were able to connect with when in prison. And I think that's very similar to the craft beer industry. There's so much talk on community and connecting with people in situations. In the past few years, just the pandemic, knowing you're not alone, finding people you can learn from, connecting with others in similar situations. How important for your journey was meeting those individuals in prison who shared your beliefs?
Oh, it's well, especially in prison. I mean, if there's one thing there's a lot of, it's negativity. And that's a whole bunch of it. And so, yeah, when you find someone that is like not into that aspect, it's refreshing. And I was fortunate to meet one of my partners. I had Greg. So one is Jack, one is Greg. I was in prison with Jack. I was not in prison with Greg. Jack was in another institution before he came and to where I was. I was in Kentucky. He was out in Colorado prior to coming to Kentucky. So I never met Greg until I got out. Greg got out first, and then I met Greg. And but I heard a lot about Greg. We communicated through like email, things like that. But Jack was kind of like the middle piece, and so that's to have individuals like that. And there were others, not many, but there were others in there that were in our think tank that added a lot, but it was calming. It was, everything was positive, and we encouraged each other. And that was good. It was like a good support group.
I think that's extremely important in so many situations in this life. And Jim, looking back on your life, what are you most proud of?
Well, I'm proud to, the family that I have. Like I mentioned before, I'm very fortunate. Not many people do have that family support. So I've had great family support, and I thank God every day for that. Um, that's what I would say, because whatever that support level is, I think we all need that, and I think that's important. So, business is business. You're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs. I'm not really thankful for that. I'm thankful for the opportunity, but I'm more thankful that I had that support group. I had my family there, and some friends. To be honest, I had some good, true, best friends that kept in touch with me. Don't worry, it's gonna be all right. When you get out, things like that. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And I'm sure they're extremely proud of what you've created today.
Yes, both family and friends. Very happy what we're involved with, what we're doing. Very supportive again, and all my partners, their families and friends. Extremely, extremely happy in what we're doing, especially now on the beer side that we got it out finally. Because for us, again, this is going back to the other question of some of the barriers that we face. It took us a very, very long time just to get the licensing that we have in the state of California. And believe it or not, I'm a first time offender. The other partner, Greg, who's on the license with me, is a repeat offender. But yeah, I'm the one that's still on probation. They being the alcohol beverage control for state of California, uh, put me on probation for whatever reason. But the time it took us to get approved was a very long time. We're talking years to get approved. So and they were the background checks and the letters of recommendations and the type of investigations they were doing on both of us. It was at times him and I talked to each other like, wow, is this really worth it? But we said, no, it is. Let's stick it through. If they deny us, they deny us. But lo and behold, they didn't. So,
How many years from when you first incorporated Prison Break Brewery to when you first released that beer? How long was that?
uh, wow, it's 2022. Uh, we're going on about almost 5 years, 4 to 5 years. Yeah.
I think every brewery owner can feel your pain there. The process takes a lot longer sometimes to get up and going.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try it someday. So where can people find this beer?
So if you go to our website, prisonbreakbrewery.com, actually, we just found out we're in 33 states, but we just found out. I just got an email this morning from our distribution company here in New York. They're called Taproom. They also do the online servicing for us.
Taproom is great. Yeah.
Well, so you're familiar with Taproom?
I'm familiar with Taproom. TAPRM.com.
Yes, TAPRM.com. Exactly. But if you go to our website as well, it goes right to their website once you're in. We're in 44 states as of, I think, next week, Monday. So we have a meeting at on Friday just to confirm. And then, but right now we're in 33 states. So I don't know all 33 states, but if you go to our website,
you're not going to take the time to list 33 states either. Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
well, I'm excited to try it, Jim. I'm going to definitely see if I can order it here in Virginia. But, how can we support you?
Well, we do need the support. So thank you for asking. Like I said, we've been self-funding all of this, which is no problem on the beer side. But on the nonprofit side, we are self-funding. We do have organizations, like I mentioned, that do provide the financial for the on-the-job training side. But on the educational side, we pay for that. So if you go to our website, which is www.OBNSecondChanceInitiative.org, again, it's OBNSecondChanceInitiative.org. We do have a GoFundMe page where an individual can donate whatever amount it is. And if they don't want to donate for whatever reason, if they can just share us, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Just share what our message is. Maybe someone in their network might say, you know what, I can help out. So we get it. It's a tough time for everyone. But yeah, that would be the best way. Like I said, we're getting ready to put our first apprentice through. So any help, anything we can get would be grateful.
And Jim, for anyone looking to get a hold of you personally, what's the best way they can contact you?
I have two email addresses. One's on the beer side, so it'll be jim@prisonbreakbrewery.com. And then I have on the nonprofit side, it's jim@obnfoundation.org.
Well, Jim, I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's needed. I think giving people a second chance is extremely important. So I know I am personally invested in what you're doing, and I'm super excited to see it grow nationwide. Thank you for sharing your story today, and I really hope we get to share a beer at some point in the near future. New York's not too far from Virginia.
No, it's not. And Andrew, thank you so much for the opportunity and the questioning and allowing us just to get our messaging out. It's people like you that help organizations like us, companies like us, and what we're trying to do, further our endeavor in terms of helping others. So thank you so much for allowing us to at least, come on with me to come on here and get our message out. So thank you.
This has been great. Thank you for sharing it. I really, really do want to have that beer with you because I think we would go a long time and have some fantastic conversations to piggyback on today.
Yeah, it's a great taste in blonde ale. So whoever's listening, watching, whatever, Shanked Breakout Blonde, get it now. It's a great, smooth, crisp blonde ale.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jim. See you soon.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.